can. We left off last time. I was in kind of talking about she-wolf or Capitoline wolf, and we had talked about before that the Apollo Vey from the roof of the temple and compared it to the Kyros boy, and I was starting to talk about this piece when my time limit caught up to me. So it's from 500 BC. It's hollow cast bronze, and it's that lost wax casting process like we looked at in the last chapter. This culture, the Etruscans had a lot of bronze production, and this piece has kind of gone through various stages and changes and been used. It's important for the Etruscans, but it's also important for the Romans because this Capitoline is referencing a hill in Rome where this was also located. So it's a protective guardian statue. And you could see that with the kind of she-wolf. She's suckling the twins. She's got her teeth bared. There's kind of stylization on her fur. These two twins that are suckling on her down below were added later. This statue was like this out of bronze before these were added, and it was kind of turned into a mythological representation of Rome during the Renaissance. Well, the representation was made in the Renaissance. The mythological ideas started long before that. So she's a stylized in her hair, geometric around the neck. She has a similarity to the Greek archaic style. She has this inspiration of large-scale sculpture that comes from the Greeks as well. And she has sort of an aggressive nature. Her teeth are bared, as in she's protecting her cubs. And it's larger than life size. It's quite large. So it's like protective guardian type of statue. We often see lions in these, but this is interesting because a female animal and a wolf. So the symbolism added here in the Renaissance is Romulus and Remus, the mythological founders of Rome, were twins that were abandoned in the wilderness and suckled by a she-wolf. And these were added because of these were added because of this statue's association with that myth. So it was already associated with that before that, then they added them. They actually even went so far in Rome as to keep a live wolf actually on the Capitoline Hill to remind the Roman citizens of the myth. So it was really, really important for that identity. And so this is an interesting piece because it's a Etruscan art piece, but then with a Renaissance edition that's important to Rome. So it's very interesting in that way. She looks almost as if she's startled as well in the eyes, and she's baring her teeth to protect, and she's frightened a little bit. So that's got a kind of interesting mixture on her face, kind of facial features as a kind of like she's startled, she's protecting her young all at the same time. So that's she-wolf or Capitoline wolf, bronze, hollow cast, 500 BC. Interesting piece. You can see more of her look there of almost like a fearful startling, and then how her teeth are popping out. And it shows you more of that stylization on her fur, like the geometric quality, and even about how it connects to her face. And this shows you sort of how the thickness of the metal in the ears is, so it's hollow throughout. Okay, moving on to one of the last pieces in chapter 8. So this will be a shorter video. This is a scene from the back of a mirror from Volterra. That's a place that we looked at on the map earlier. This is where the Tomb of the Augurs was, and this is Volterra. So it's up in this part of Italy. Interesting piece. Women were more valued in Etruscan society, and this was very peculiar because in a lot of other societies in this era, they were not involved in public scenes in art. This is rare. So they participated in banquets, and the documentary talks about how they were considered to be very beautiful. They were literate, so they could read. There's inscriptions on the mirror. All these things are pretty unusual. So this was a functional object, a woman's mirror. It was elaborate jewelry that they have. They often had pretty elaborate jewelry in line with their rank, depending on if they were more noble or not. They were very fashionable women in their day and age. They were more fashionable than the Greeks or Roman women. So it'd been a bronzed mirror engraved, so it's cut down line work into it. So bronze was shiny for a mirror, and the back had a picture. So the front would be really polished, really shiny to have a mirror, not like our current ones with glass and silver lining behind them. Um, this is a very finely crafted object, and it's got on the back of it a scene from mythology, which is very common with these. There was a prominence of female goddesses in their art, and that was part of their value of men and women in a way that was different. So engraving is lines chiseled with the metal into the metal, so they kind of cut down into it. This is from the Greek myth, and I talked to you guys about the fact that already this culture had a similar pantheon to the Greeks and the Romans. They had different names for people, but I'm going to use the Greek names for this myth. So in this myth, Zeus deceives Hera into nursing Hercules. Hercules is Zeus's son from a mortal woman. Hera is Zeus's wife. So Hercules actually means son of Hera. And so the sign of acceptance is to nurse. So this is a grown man Hercules nursing off of Hera. And Hera was, this shows the Etruscan version. Hera was willingly nurses adult Hercules. This is different than the other one in Greek. It was not going to be as an adult, he would be an infant. But it means to accept. And so when Hera pulled away and the milk from her breast spread in the heavens created the Milky Way galaxy. This is the creation myth of how the Milky Way was created. So there's some idea of acceptance and adoption to nurse him. So he becomes accepted because Zeus had Hercules with a different woman than his wife Hera. So in this one, he becomes like an immortal and a god because he's adopted by Hera. In this, Apollo and Neptune witness it. So we have Neptune, who is Poseidon in Greek, so the Poseidon and Apollo witness it. And then there's two unidentified goddesses. The inscription on the mirror always says how Hercules became Hera's son. So it's identified as part of that. Even though we can't read it, we know a bit about that's how it was. And then around is a bunch of ornamentation and details and things that are pretty interesting. So it's all about showing a scene from a myth that was important for them about the creation of the Milky Way galaxy and this whole story about how Hercules became like a god for them, and a lot of them cared a lot about Hercules because of that. He was identified with people in this way. So that concludes our chapter 8. Quick chapter. Only you had your documentary that you needed to watch, and then 2 of these. So you're going to want to identify the different vocab words and pay attention to the slides that you need to learn from this chapter. And then we're going to start on chapter 9 here in a little bit. So take care. I'll talk to you soon.